Thank you, Governor Rob. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it could be intoxicating, perhaps in another state, for such an assemblage of former governors to gather and to hear great things said about them. But in Virginia, a former Virginia governor, John Battle, once observed that there is nothing so ex as an ex-governor. They've given us 5 to 10 minutes each to talk. And while some may desire to hear more, that should be enough because, as Mark Twain once observed, being talked to death is a terrible way to go. And we've got a long way to go tonight. I am delighted to be here this evening in the company of my fellow chief executives, especially in the light of the goodness in the form of money that this assemblage confers upon the Sorensen Institute and its able leader, Bob Gibson. If tonight's fundraiser is successful, there's no telling where this could take us. It occurs to me that such a roadshow might raise more money for transportation than selling naming rights to our buildings, bridges, state parks, and the governor's mansion. I've been asked to speak on the subject of transportation, and I will do the best I can. It was not my intention in life to be saddled with this responsibility forever and ever. Why could I not be the art governor or the happy governor? But roads it is, and roads it will be. 3 names: Harry Byrd Sr., Dwight Eisenhower, and Robert F. McDonald. What binds these 3 leaders together? With Governor Byrd, one can immediately find sharp and profound differences. Very sharp, as you've already heard. Just ask Governor Holton and Governor Wilder. Me too. With President Eisenhower, we might replay the U-2 plane incident or the 800 rounds of golf that he played in the White House. With Governor McDonald, there is certainly room for disagreement, but they've not given me enough time to go through the full list, so I will leave that alone. What intrigues me is what binds these 3 disparate leaders, Byrd, Eisenhower, and McDonald, together. What undertaking do they share? What is the one thing, the one quandary, the one great challenge they were willing to take on? The answer: transportation. In 1928, Governor Byrd helped get Virginia out of the ditch. He labored to defeat a bond issue, but then led the charge across the state for a state gas tax and created Virginia's first transportation fund. The roads were appalling, and he started building the Commonwealth's primary road system. Governor Byrd believed that a commitment to transportation was an investment in Virginia's future, and he was right. In 1919, a then young Army Lieutenant Eisenhower led a convoy of 83 Army vehicles across the country, from New York to San Francisco. It took them 2 months. He came to the same conclusion as Harry. The roads were appalling. Later in the 1940s, when Ike got to Germany as the supreme commander of the Allied forces, he observed the speed at which vehicles could be moved on the multi-lane Autobahn, and the light bulb went on. 10 years later, as president, Eisenhower pushed through legislation to construct a 41,000-mile interstate highway system, the largest public works project in the history of the country, and he raised gas taxes to pay for it. President Eisenhower believed it was an investment in the country's future, and he was right. Now, here we are in Virginia, more than a quarter century, virtually a generation later, since the passage of my administration's 1986 mega tax increase program for transportation. That was supposed to be a beginning, not an ending. But here we are, letting transportation slide into the appalling category, and Governor McDonnell is trying to do something about it. He has run into some headwinds, some from his party, some from mine. I received a note the other day, and here's what it said. Quote, "If Bob McDonnell gets his way, Virginia families and businesses will bear the burden of ever-increasing tolls." Well, number one, perhaps some have forgotten the heavy burden that a declining transportation system places on families, businesses, and the hopes of Virginia's economy. And number two, more to the point, someone forgot that I had proposed a few years ago in a letter to then Senator John Chichester a tolling proposal that was considerably more ambitious but cheaper per toll than the one that has now been under consideration. I sent the letter in response to Senator Chichester's legislative question about how Virginia could build roads in lieu of raising taxes. If not taxes, then tolls were a viable alternative, I suggested. Suffice it to say, that did not go very far. So we flash forward to the present proposal. And you know, I actually do understand what's going on here. One party is now playing the same game that the other party has played for years. It's called roads for free. Roads are not free. The Virginian Pilot reports a poll that people in Hampton Roads would prefer a regional sales tax for transportation. That's fine, but that was tried in 2002 and it went down in flames. The simple fact is that roads will not build themselves. We have been, as a Commonwealth, monumentally creative in our efforts to pretend otherwise. A quarter century of delusion. Let's face it, people do not like tolls. We discovered that with the Virginia Beach Expressway and the Richmond-Petersburg Turnpike. That's one of the reasons we took the path we did in 1986. But when all is said and done, roads are about procurement. You either pay for them or you don't. And if you don't pay for them with real money, you pay for the consequences, which in terms of lost economic opportunity and social decline can be painfully expensive later and self-destructive. That's where we are right now. VDOT told contractors the other day that failure to get our legislative act together would stop work on the state's highways come May 1st. Such a suspension could cost 473 construction and maintenance projects valued at $2.7 billion. Yes, that is real money, and a real calamity, too, should it ever happen. You could even call it appalling. So, ladies and gentlemen, I was asked to talk about transportation tonight, and so I've done that. But for me, transportation has never been about the past. It's always been about the future. Someday, perhaps, I can find the opportunity to talk with Governor McDonnell on some other matters, such as public broadcasting and money for Dulles Rail, a few other topics. But right now, on the subject of transportation, Governor McDonnell has demonstrated his belief that a commitment to transportation is an investment in Virginia's future, as Governors Warner and Kane did before. I admire that. I hope he keeps it up, because he is right on that one issue. Thanks very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce someone I've known a long time, long before either one of us had gray hair. Doug Wilder and I were friends and running mates in the 1970s when he was a candidate for the Senate of Virginia and I was running for the House of Delegates floater seat that covered all of Richmond and all of Henrico County. As everyone knows, we were running mates again in 1985, when there were many who predicted doom for the Baliles, Wilder, and Terry ticket, a white attorney general, a black state senator, and a female member of the Virginia House of Delegates. We prevailed. And then in 1989, history was made in Virginia when the Lieutenant Governor Wilder was elected governor of Virginia, a truly historic event for the Commonwealth and for the country. Over the years since then, through thick and thin, we've maintained our friendship and mutual respect, and we've even laughed and joked about who has the most gray hair. But gray hair or not, I like this man, and I'm pleased to introduce to you my friend and successor, the 66th Governor of Virginia, the Honorable Doug Wilder.